Ni hao, my polyglot pals. Welcome back. I just wanted to share what I got in the mail today. That's right, Harry Potter in French. Now, I just want to point out that this book is so small. I sort of expected it to be along the lines of my other Harry Potter books size-wise, but it is really tiny. My hand is the size of the book. It's so little. However, we're not here to talk about this today, although this is a good reason why I need to do the task that I'm going to start on today, which is making my frequency list flashcards. So what I'm going to do today is just make some flashcards, and I'm inviting you along to join me. Up in front of me right now, I have the site as well as a Anki deck for the 50 most common words. If I wanted to be a really good French student, I wouldn't have to say 50 most common words. It would be written in French, but I'm not perfect as it turns out, and I'm taking the lazy route here. So let's get started. Unsurprisingly, the most common word in French is the verb for to be. Now, if you're following along or doing this in your own language, you may notice that this is defaulted to basic. You probably want to have it set to basic and reverse card. What this means is that you're going to see the card in your target language as well as the card in your native language. So you could either see the word to be or the word to be in your target language. I'm starting with to be because that is the most common word in French, and I'm going to copy this just like this because there is that accent and I don't know how to make that quickly on my keyboard. I do recommend, when possible, actually typing out the word for yourself just so you get a feel for it. So first, I desperately want to apologize for the murdering of the French language that I am responsible for and have been responsible for the past week. So if you are a French speaker and you felt like you died a little inside in the past 2 or 3 weeks, I'm sorry, that's my fault. I struggle so much with the French R, so you're going to hear me struggle with that today, and this word is the absolute worst. A couple of the words I feel like I do okay, like extraordinaire. I kind of get how it turns into an almost English H sound in my mouth, but this word, oh no. So I'm going to play it first, and unfortunately, I can't download the audio, so I just kind of have to roll with it. And I can record my own audio for this card, but because I struggle so much to pronounce this, I'm hesitant to do so because I don't want to reinforce bad behavior. So let's take a listen. Etres. 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 So I did record it. Probably not a great idea. Now, I don't actually want this on the back, I want this to be on the front, so I'm just going to put it there. To be is probably the hardest card to make. If you watched my Anki video, you'll know that I do strongly recommend making flashcards using pictures. For to be, it's not that simple, and I think it's totally understandable to not use a picture. However, when I do go and have this conjugated out, I am going to have pictures, so je suis Tori will have a picture of me. It'll, say suis, have a picture of me in the sentence. That way I get used to referring to myself as je suis. And there we go. First card made, and it was hardly painful. I do like this list because it doesn't start with, which is a really common word, but maybe not as important to learn. And it starts with the verbs. So the next one is avoir. Avoir? Avoir, which is to have. Another one that's kind of hard. Now you can see on Google I pulled up to be. Sometimes I like to look and see if there's any pictures just on Google Image to see if it seems like it might be helpful. And I really don't see anything here, but again, when I go through and conjugate this verb, which is really important for regular verbs, I will be able to have pictures of someone holding something instead. And I'll talk about those flashcards later, either in this video or in a upcoming video. And again, you can record. So first I want to listen.
Avoir.
Avoir. avoir. Not quite right, but close enough, so I'm going to add that. That's 2 cards down. Next, an easy word, je, which is I. Again, a picture of yourself would work well here. So, je is I. Je. And added. Cool. This is probably going to get a little boring to watch after a while, so I'm going to speed this process up a bit to get through these cards. If you want to get to the point where you are 80 to 90% fluent in a language in a month, which is a big task, but that's 1,000 words, you're going to need to learn 33 new words a day, which means on top of your old flashcards, you're going to see 33 new flashcards on top of that. I want to start with words that I know I need more work on and go from there. So for words like que, you're going to see that it can be used for multiple things. That, what, which. It's valid to separate these or keep them together. Because these can be separated, I'm going to show you what that process would look like. If I want to separate them, I have 2 things I could do. I could do it with a basic and reverse card for each word, or I could do only the reverse cards for certain words. And that's what I'm going to do here because the word is the same. So I'm going to have this as a basic card. So I'm going to see this, but I'm not going to see the back as the first card. What I'm trying to say is that I'll see que, and I'll flip it over and see that, what, and which, but I will never see that, what, and which on the same card first. So I'm going to add this card. Now, I want to separate those English words, so we're going to do that now. So here, I'll see a card that says that, and I'll know it's que, so I'm going to add that. The same thing with what and which. One thing to keep in note is I know that that's being used is not the kind of that where we say, look at that over there. It's the kind of that where it's, I talked to her so that we can go to the mall. That's something that is worth noting in the cards. Even though I did not do so there, I'm definitely going to have to go back and revise that card. I'm going to go back to decks. This is going to be my general, I learn a word, I put it there deck. And I'm going to start with some of the verbs, especially the irregular verbs, and I'm just going to show you what you might do for that. So, looking at my list here, there are 2 most common verbs in French, which are to be and to have, are irregular. No surprise that those are the most common verbs. So let's actually go through and do something about that. So let's actually go through and make those cards. Again, we start with the word for to be, which, as I mentioned, is a super challenging word, and I'm just going to leave it as is with a basic and reversed. But now, what about I am? Well, I know this is je suis. I'm going to put my name. So I'm saying on the one side, je suis, and on the other side, je suis Tori. Or I know personally my name is Tori, so when I flip it over, it'll be pretty clear that I'm saying I am Tori, and I don't need to include a picture. It's totally fine to include a sentence in your target language instead of a picture. However, for nouns and things like that, you may want a picture. Alternatively, you can describe something. So I remember when I was in Italy, I was having this conversation, and I was trying to explain something with bats, but I did not know the word for bat was pipistrello. So I said, you know, the animal that hangs upside down in caves. You can essentially do the same thing with your flashcards. So after je suis, we have tu es. This one's harder. Let's see if we can find a picture that makes sense here. Cool. This looks perfect. One thing to note, if you do this steal off Google method, don't share or sell these cards. This is not really particularly cool to the artists. Just be aware of that. So here, I've got a finger pointing. Now, I can do the exact same thing and say, tu es Tori. And the reason for that is when I flip over the card, I'm going to see it pointing at me. These don't necessarily require basic and reverse cards. These can sort of just be basic. So I'm going to change that. And the reason why they don't require the reverse is because I'm just going to see it, and then I'm going to flip it and see tu es. So these cards, it's not necessary. All right. Another time I'm going to use the name, and I'm just going to say, ooh, this is not son, it's es. It's a again. So Le Marie. And here I'm going to find a picture of Marie Curie. Marie. Yeah, that French R is killing me. So here I'm going to find a picture of Marie Curie, and the reason for that is because it's a recognizable figure with the name of Marie. All right. Add that. I could have done that with il too. Because I have enough language learning knowledge, and I have learned other languages where he and she are conjugated the same way, I'm not going to bother to create a card for he because I know. Like, it's intrinsic to me, so I'm going to skip that. So, nous sommes is we are. So, here, I'm going to put two names. Let's do Tori and Marie. So we are Tori and Marie. Again, I don't feel the need to add a photo here because I know who I am. Vous êtes a little harder because it's hard to distinguish between you all are and they all are. So that is hard, but we can go back to that pointing finger. Here, when I write the sentence, I want to have it be more than one person, so it's clear that it's you are plural. Again, because I speak other languages where you is the plural and the formal, I'm not going to make separate cards, but you may want to make separate cards if you don't speak one of those languages. And you could, for example, use a picture of the queen for you are in the formal. And then finally, we're going to end in ils sont. And because on my last card I used elle, here I'll just use il. And I was thinking of famous duos, and the only one that comes to mind is Siegfried and Roy. So here's Siegfried and Roy. Get a picture of them with their tigers. There we go. And that would be how you could make flashcards with pictures and sentences. Nothing in my native language was in any of those flashcards. I'm going to go through avoir real quick too. Avoir. I'll write that down in English. And now back to exclusively in the target language. All right, now let's go through to have and make one for each use case. So, j'ai. So I have two cats, and I'm going to use that as an example here. Putting the pictures of the cats would be a good idea, but I don't have one handy. To say two cats in French, I'm pretty sure it's just deux chats, but let's look. Google Translate, by the way, is not as bad as it once was. It does a pretty decent job. So let's put detect language here and French here. So j'ai deux chats. Yeah, that was exactly right. Good for me. You'll want to pick words that are simple enough that you do understand them. So I definitely know that the French word for cat is chat. That does not need a flashcard, and it's not going to get one. I just wanted to check my pluralization. I also know do is two, so that's why I chose that sentence. You have. I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the other ones with the finger pointing. Because again, we're talking about me, like you have. It's really hard to illustrate the concept of you unless you like start referring to you as the reader. So I'm going to make the same sentence. It's a good idea when possible to use something different. So I could say, you know, you have a car. In fact, why don't we go ahead and do that? Voiture. Let's check this. Again, batting 100 here. Add that. If I wanted to be kind of thorough, I could have added a car there and had a picture of a car. I'm not going to, but it would be an option. So let's do something for he has. Let's see if we can have like a flower, like a man holding a flower. If I was being a good student, and I will be from this point onwards, both sides should have the audio. So I'm going to have to go back and do that for the ones that I haven't. Oof, I feel really unprepared. But this does highlight how hard it is to make a great flashcard because there's so much that goes into these. It's a very time consuming. Nous avons, so we have can be kind of hard to illustrate. So let's see if I can make a more complicated sentence. So I can say my friend, mon ami et me. So mon ami and me, my friend and me. My friend and me have cats. Let's see if that sentence is correct. Okay, so not quite. I want to use mon ami et moi avant de chat. So I was wrong that time. That's really good to note. I'm going to play this and record it.
Mon ami et moi avons des chats.
Mon ami et moi avons des chats. So we're going to go with that. What do we have next? We have vous avez. Here is a good one for like the queen has a crown. Now I'm using we as in the formal. I'm going to use an actual picture of the queen. Vous avez, and I'm guessing the word for crown is corona, but we're going to find out. I'm going to play this and hear what it sounds like.
Tu as une couronne. Tu as une couronne.
Une couronne.
Tu as une couronne. Tu as une couronne.
Couronne. That word's really hard for me to pronounce.
Couronne.
Couronne. Vous avez une couronne. Alright, I'm going to leave it as is, but the pronunciation's not quite right on that one. And then here, finally, they have. Let's think of something we can use for that. Maybe people with dogs. Maybe there's a picture of like two people with a dog. I'm saying dog because I know the word for dog is chien. So I want more than one person. This works perfectly. They have a dog. So I can do ils ont un chien. Ils ont un chien. Again, I struggle with that word, but there we go. So that's what it looks like to make two different irregular verbs into flashcards. That was really time consuming. As you saw, making flashcards is not easy. The other thing that's not easy is, as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you want to reach a relative level of fluency a month, you do have to learn around 33 words a day, and that does not include the conjugations of those words. So for regular verbs, less of an issue, but for all these irregular verbs, you have to learn those, and those only count as one word. So super fast fluency is challenging, but possible. What's more realistic for most people is relative fluency in about 3 months, which is going to bring it down to 10 to 13 cards a day, or even 10 to 15 if you want to become very good in the language. However, starting today, I'm going to be on a super fluent journey, which means that for 30 days, I'm going to try to learn 30 new words a day. That's right, that is my new project. So for the next 30 days, it's going to be 30 new words a day, and we're going to see how good my French is at the end of it. I'm kind of dreading it because not only do I have to study 30 words a day, but I also have to make flashcards for 30 words a day, which is stressful. And I'm probably going to spend a lot of time this weekend making flashcards, but because it's not that exciting to watch, I'm not going to film that. However, thanks for sticking with me while I went over those. That's what making flashcards looks like. This is not as in-depth of a tutorial as that former video I did about 6 years ago on Anki. I will probably revisit that at some point, but for now, this was just a quick, here's how I'm going to make these so that you could see. It was also a little rocky because I'll be honest, I haven't made language flashcards in quite a while, so I I definitely stumbled up on a few things that'll get better next time. Thanks for making flashcards with me. I'm really happy that you stuck around to this. And if you liked this video, please be sure to like and subscribe so that you can receive notifications when I do post new videos. Right now, my posting schedule is Sunday morning. So thanks for watching, and hasta luego. Bye.